Introduce you and then we're gonna go. Hey everybody, it is Help is on the Way Thursday, and I am so excited to have this man on. I've been trying to get him on for a minute, but he's so busy. But that's a good thing. This is the person that I use as my private investigator to help us with things with the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And I use him not only because he's a private investigator, but it's also because of his excellence in what he does, but it's his heart as well. And so I'm going to introduce my man right here. We bring in Herbert Murphy to the table. I hope I can hear him. I can't hear him just yet. Can I hear you, Murph? Speak up. Can you hear
me? Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. There it is. There it is. Yay! We got on, Murph.
How you doing?
I'm good. It's so good to see you. Look, honestly, I make a phone call or I send an email. I don't even get to see this man's face half the time. So it's so good to see his face. We've had lunch a few times. I've been in his office, but we typically do everything via online.
Yep.
My husband listening. I got an echo in the background. It's okay. But we do everything via online and all of that. And Murph, introduce yourself and tell people, about your company, but I do want to get into your why as well at some point.
Okay, fine. Hey, my name is Herbert Murphy. I own Solid Solutions Legal Services. It's a private investigation firm. Been in business for about 10 years. I do criminal and family law investigations all across the state of Georgia and beyond. So that's pretty much my background. Also, I worked for DFACS in the past, so that helps a lot with my family law cases. So I used to be an investigator for DFACS, so it gives me a lot of leeway and a lot of knowledge on how to handle investigations in family law.
And that gives you an edge, and I think that's part of where your heart comes from. You've been able to see some things that not everybody gets to see. You and I, sometimes you do this work and people are like, oh, you're biased. No, I have an edge. I have an advantage that you don't know about. Mm-hmm. The way I phrase this conversation is why do you need a private investigator? And I want to dig into that because, your services go, when we use them, it's skip tracing, it's process serving, but there's so much more that private investigators do that can also help a person's custody case. So let's talk about what skip tracing is and how we, as the Fatherless Generation Foundation and the services you provide, have been able to utilize that to help reunite families. So what is skip tracing?
Well, as far as skip tracing is a great plus for private investigators. It's a great plus for family law because it allows us to track down parents, guardians of children who have skipped town, who moved all across the world. I'm able to track people down across the United States, abroad, and get addresses, phone numbers, emails. The list goes on. But it doesn't stop there. Once I get that information, I'm able to get criminal background information. I'm able to get credit information. I'm able to get so much, and that helps with the custody aspect of things. So if we get into a situation whereas you have a client that's trying to get custody of a child, I'm able to take the information off my skip trace and give it to the attorney, give it to their client, and allow that information to be used in court to help change custody, in which I have done many times in the 10 years I've been in business. I have gotten custody for fathers, I would say at least over 50. And that's just a rough estimate off the top of my head, just based off information off the skip tracing. So skip tracing is very important. It's the first part of my investigation that gets me started, gets me going, and leads me in the right direction.
And see, that's what I don't think a lot of people even recognize. Can't always find an address on someone, or the expectation that I hear a lot is, oh, well, child support knows her address, so they'll give it to me. Actually, they won't. But we have a way of finding that. And this is the person that we use with the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And even, I got comments coming in that I didn't see. People are on here. Oh, my husband said share. My husband's on here comment, making sure you share. I'm good, not you, Murph, but everybody watching. Because people will watch it while they're at work and after they leave work. That's one thing we know. And if you're watching in replay, type replay in so that we know. I was so excited to get into this. I missed some of the housekeeping. Because I'm telling you, I've been trying to have this conversation with you for months, but COVID has you're busy, but you're not as busy.
I tell you what, COVID has put me at a standstill. I'm working, but I'm able to sit down in front of my computer now and actually sit down and do things like this, give back and try to help families, reunite and they get caught up with my other work. So
Right.
very COVID, I guess.
Same thing for me. Courts are closed or skeleton, so there's only so much I can do. Although my clients call almost every day, like, "What we doing? What we doing?" We're not doing anything. We can't. So this does give us an opportunity to do that. So when I'm looking at skip tracing, I can locate a person's address. I can locate who a person is even maybe living with.
Yeah.
That and then looking at their background. Not to say that that's what we do or we want to do. But if there's anything in question, or they may be a criminal themselves, but people are trying to use things against you in your custody case, Murph, I'm pointing to him. He works all over the country. He can help you get that advantage that you need in your case to prove that some of the false allegations that are even against you aren't even real. He can help you in that way. Skip tracing is just the first step. And I know I want to talk about some of the people that we've been able to locate because of Murph. There was a situation in Oklahoma where we couldn't find mom. Dad thought he had the address, but he didn't. And his daughter had been in the newspaper because mom had been attacked by her husband or her boyfriend, and she had been held hostage in a bathroom. And the father didn't know where his daughter was, even in the midst of all of that happening. You guys, Murph was the one who helped this father get the address, so he knew where his daughter was, and we could do a wellness check, and then he could go forward with getting his actual custody in place and get it because he didn't have it before. Okay. Well, you're not, Glenn. I see a post here. Glenn is rough on the conversation. Glenn can have a real hard conversation, but Glenn, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. But Murph was able to help this father have peace of mind and then get involved in his daughter's life when I tell you, it was in the news, it was all over the internet. This mother had been held captive for days with the children in the house, this father's child in the house, and the father didn't know where they were, didn't know where they lived, anything. Murph was able to do a skip trace and get that done. Hey, attorney Marissa Grayson, he was the one able to do that. Murph has been able to help us track people who have literally moved all over the country from one place to another. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking to make the other person look bad. You're here to clear your name in some ways, but you're also able to have contact with your child. So Murph, once you get the skip trace done, you also do process serving. We've asked you to do that. I'm bringing up one particular case in a moment.
Yeah, there you are.
You know I am. See, we talk.
Yeah.
So, process serving, what does that look like? Because typically people will go to the sheriff. What's the difference between you and a sheriff?
Well, before I jump to the process server, I want to add one more piece to the skip tracing that's very, very vital.
Okay.
That a lot of people don't know. And that with the skip tracing, I'm also able to use that information to get on social media. Social media plays a real big part in family law, and I've utilized it to the utmost, and it has helped solve so many different cases and changed custody from one parent to another in so many of my cases. So I just want to add that little piece as well, that the skip tracing is almost like everything in the investigation for me. So social media is one of the biggest platforms that we use with my company to help change custody and help find families. As far as the process serving, what makes me different from the sheriff, with me, I like to make multiple attempts. Okay, so with the sheriff, most sheriffs, they're going to do maybe one attempt. They knock on the door, boom, boom, turn around and leave. It's not all sheriffs. I'm not putting down the sheriff department because in some cases I have to use a sheriff for safety. But for the most part, what makes me different from a sheriff, I'm able to do surveillance. I'm able to go to a person's work. I'm able to go to a neighbor's house. I'm able to sit outside a person's house and wait for a person to get home. So I have a little bit more leeway than the sheriff. I'm a little bit more flexible than a sheriff in terms of my attempts. The attempts are what's most important in process serving. You don't want to get a process server, knock on the door, and then turn around, leave, and then you get a bill in the mail, say, hey, I want to be paid for my attempt. You'd like to get a bill and say, hey, I'm paying for a service. The service was rendered because I had a dedicated person that that went far and beyond the call of duty to make sure this person got served. And that's what I do. I make sure that I do everything I can to get that person served no matter what. I've traveled to other states. I had one case where I traveled to New Orleans to get someone served. I had to get a special motion from the judge, but I got it done. So I just go far and beyond. Whereas the sheriff deputy, again, once again, they may knock on the door once, maybe twice, but after that, that's it, and you get your bill. So that's pretty much what the process serving.
And that's not disparaging upon sheriffs. That's their job, right? Their job is to knock a couple times. They have a description on what they're supposed to do, but you also have a description. So you talked about pricing a little bit. What's the pricing for this? Because I know we're blessed. I'm aware that I'm blessed, y'all. I'm blessed. He blesses us because of how he came to us. So I understand I'm blessed, but I think people, when they hear private investigator, Murph, they get nervous and they think it's a whole lot of money. Not that you don't need to be paid for your services, but what's the difference between the pay that the sheriff would get and what you would get?
Well, one example I could use is a sheriff in Georgia may say, we will charge you $50 for one attempt. Whereas I turn around and say, I charge you $75 to $100 for 3 attempts. So if you do the math, because process serving is difficult because you never know when a person is going to be home, especially a person you haven't been in contact with for years. And so if you're paying that $50 for one attempt, it's almost like playing the lotto. I'm going to pay this money in hopes that this person is home when the sheriff decides to go out. That's the other benefit you have with a private investigator. So let's say if you do know or expect the time the person to be home, you may know their work schedule. Well, I know such and such may get off at 5 o'clock. They usually get home at 5:30. Well, you can call a private investigator like myself and say, hey, I know that they usually get home around 5:30 to 6. I go into my calendar, my schedule. I'm going to allot an hour from 5:30 to 6:30 to sit and wait for this person to get home. Whereas the sheriff, they can't do that because they have other duties. So that's another benefit of using a private investigator. So, and the $75 to $100 is really based on the distance and sometimes the amount of difficulty. Sometimes I have to serve people at the police station. Sometimes I have to serve a person at work. So if it's the most difficult cases, I may charge a little bit more. But I'm very fair. I've been told by clients and other attorneys I need to charge more, but I'm just so dedicated to this because there's not a lot of people that's actually dedicated to getting people served, to get them in court, to have a judge to render a verdict over their case and put a child with the rightful parent. So I just like to go far and beyond to make sure that I can provide that service so that parents will have the opportunity to have their children.
See, and that's the key, because without someone being served, you can't take them into court. And I know publications exist, but I can tell you there are times when we've tried to file publications and the court turns it down. They're like, no. So every publication isn't a guarantee. People say that and it's like, but it's not a guarantee. But when you find a process server, a private investigator, he just told you, the sheriff is going to charge you $50. He charges you $75. The $25 isn't worth the extra effort. Of course it is. That's why you can't allow things to limit your mindset. You can't allow things to make you think, oh, I can't afford them. That's why I wanted to bring up the pricing, because I know, Murph, when people hear private investigator, like, oh, that's out my price range. Can't handle that.
Yeah.
The skip tracing, that's not as much as you think it is. I know, once again, I'm blessed, but I know that it's not as much as you think it is, because you get caught up in, oh, well, I don't have the money for this and for that, and I've paid all this money. What would, like, peace of mind? You can't pay for peace of mind and know that your children are okay. That dad had a relief, and I can tell you, I've gotten emails from him, Murph. He is doing amazing with his daughter. He is very happy that she's in his life, but that's what he paid for in coming to us and getting what we had to offer. You don't have to come through us to go to Murph. I'm even petitioning. I see attorneys on here. I'm petitioning attorneys to go to Murph and ask him to do this work for you. He is incredible at what he does. You started with us when we really first, he found us on Ricky Smiley Morning Show.
Yep.
He said, I want to help. He said, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to pay this amount. Like, this is what you pay. Over the years, it's gone up a little bit, but that's part of our prices have gone up a little bit too. That's called, look, the cost of living has gone up. Overhead has gone up. So I never took offense to it. It's still better than if I paid a sheriff. It's still better if I called somebody to do skip tracing on my own. So you got to recognize that private investigators, but this one right here, he has an ability and he has a knack to do what he does. And he does it because of his heart. He called me immediately and said, I want to help somehow. And this is what I can offer you. And we've been together ever since then. Like we've been, and it's been like 5-6 years now. Murph, he has been instrumental. And I would tell you about 70 to 80% of the reunites that we've done. That's what you've got to know. This person right here, I don't do this by myself. I have people who work with me to help me get this done. So let's go into this, because when we talk about process serving, if you don't get someone served, you just can't take them to court. And we had a case where he's all over social media. Murph, right now, I've had to do police reports. I have a TPO that I have to file tomorrow. He has gone over and beyond. My attorney now has sent him a cease and desist from the law office. And he's like, you didn't try to serve her. And I'm like, yes, we did. And this is the person who did it. So when you can't serve someone, like this situation was different. You sat in this person's job parking lot for, how long did you sit in the parking lot?
It had to been several hours. So I was 2.5, 3 hours, I recall.
Yeah, and then you tried to go in the building. They told you couldn't.
They told me I couldn't. I mean, I have to follow, their laws and regulations, but I go far and beyond as much as I'm able to. But I sat there and waited for them to come out. They never came out. I think they alerted the security.
Yep.
So they did everything they could to avoid me. But I did let them know that I'm here to stay, and I'm going to try to get you to the best of my ability. And so eventually that one didn't go as well. But it wasn't due to the fact of my availability or my attempts. It was just that, sometimes, you have to be strategic in process serving. You have to have all the information. You have to have all your ducks in a row in order to be successful.
And let me say this, I wasn't even sharing this to make it look like you weren't able. Number one, it was a federal building. Number two, this woman has been abused. And so she has certain things in place to cover her, because this man, I did talk to her recently, and she's been on the run for 14 years because of the abuse. And so I learned, Murph, there was a reason you weren't able to get in.
Oh, yeah. And I'll tell everybody, it's almost like going to a doctor. No doctor or no attorney should be able to tell you they could fix your situation 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. But there's situations that I would say over 95% of my cases I get served. The other 5% I don't. I go to court and I will testify of my attempts on your behalf. I've testified in many courts. This is what I've done. These are the attempts I made. I've done affidavits. And sometimes that has gave the court enough information to make a determination that, hey, they did everything they could to get this person served. We're going to go ahead and grant whatever petition was filed on your client's behalf.
And that's what I love about it. So know that even bringing up that context or that conversation, it wasn't that Murph didn't attempt. It wasn't that he didn't go above and beyond. There were other parameters in place because of the circumstances of that case. But even in that, he worked hard and he was diligent about it. And like I said, he's responsible for majority of my cases even being reunited because of his ability to skip trace and some of the process service that we've had him do. Even calling him and saying, hey, I've got an urgent case. I need you to serve this person immediately because I don't know when they're going to move around. What can you do? And he's like, well, this is going to cost a little bit more, but we can do it like in the next hour or tomorrow. He'll tell me I'll be out there in the morning. And he does. And the person that we've not been able to get, they get served.
Yes, sir.
He got legitimated in February. That was an emergency when I remember this one in particular. He got legitimated in February, Murph, and he's been able to spend that time with his son ever since then. Mom was trying to avoid it. Wow. And women know that if we avoid being served, we can't go to court. They know this.
They know it.
Men know it too, right? But I work with men to help them get into their children's lives. So I just have a different perspective on that. But they know. And so they will avoid it because once they're served, you have to go to court. If you never get served, you don't have to. So let's talk about, because we only have a few more minutes. I didn't want to be on here all day. I want to know your why. Why did you call me that day and say, you know what, however I can help? And you ain't got to go into 2 minutes, but there's a heart there. There's a why there.
Oh, well, I'm a father myself. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I do believe that children who have the opportunity to have a relationship with their father should have it. I truly believe that. Also, as I said before, I used to work for DFAX. I was an investigator for DFAX for a few years, and I got an opportunity to really find a passion for children. And everything that's happened for a reason. So when I left DFAX, I said, I want to be able to help children on my own platform, not state mandated DFAX or state mandated anything. So I became a private investigator, and I just used my heart and what I learned from DFAX, and I just applied it to wanting to help people. I wanted to reunify families with their children, fathers with their children. And so that's pretty much my why. When I heard you on the radio one morning, and it's crazy because I used to listen to Ricky Smiley for the comedy aspect.
Yeah.
And then when I heard you come on and you start talking, I said, "Oh my God!" And I was driving, almost got in a car accident that day trying to write your number down. And when I called you and I heard your voice, I'm like, "This is real." Like, I really want to, help. And when you gave me the opportunity to help, it really changed my life.
Wow.
And I never told you that.
No, you
it changed my life. So I've been blessed in so many ways. That's why I don't charge the way some investigators do charge. That's why I put forth the effort that I do, because I'm giving back, and I'm giving the opportunity for a father to raise his child in a light that he sees fit. And it's just rewarding for me. Like, I love it. So, but that's my wife for the most part.
I love it. So I want to ask this last question, because we got into the skip tracing, we got into the process serving, but there are other ways that private investigators can help the custody case. You talked a little bit about what the skip tracing can provide and information it can provide, but what can private investigators provide to a custody case?
Well, there's so much. With custody cases, we all know custody cases are very hard to convince a court to switch from one parent to another, whether it's from a mother to a father, but most importantly, a father to a father to a mother. So you have to be detailed in the information that you obtain, and trying to get a court to make that determination. So some of the things that I do, like I said, the first thing I do, I go to social media. So many people, for some odd reason, put their whole life on social media, and it's crazy. Some of the things that they put on. I'll give you an example. So I had a client out in Georgia, here in Georgia, and they had a grandchild who was taken away by the mom to another state. So one of the first things I did on that case, I went to social media and found out that the young lady was a dancer. And so I'm like, okay, so the dancing, okay, so I looked up dancing. Dancing is legal in the state of Georgia. So I say, we got to be a little bit more detailed in this, okay? That's not enough to get this custody switched over because she's a dancer. So then I kept going, following my skip tracing, found other emails, other social media platforms, and then started to see drugs on her page. She started putting drugs, start putting sexual explicit things on her social media. So I'm just copying, I'm screen every time I get to a traffic light, on her page. I'm build like a notebook full of photographs and videos on her. It had to have been almost 80, maybe 80 photos and maybe 20 videos that I've gotten over a year. It took us about a year. So once I got that information, then I started doing background checks. I said to myself, well, if she got drugs on her page, she's dancing, and she's flashing money on her page, let's see what her criminal history look like. Let's see what type of people is that she's affiliated with. And I did that and found out that she had several relatives staying in the household. One relative in particular was a convicted felon. And in fact, he was on the sex offenders list. So I was able to find that information. I went to the courts, got certified copies of that information. But I didn't stop there. Next thing I did, I got in contact with the attorney and let the attorney know, say, hey, what I'm going to do is get on an airplane and I'm going to go to this court and get this information. I'm going to get you certified copies so that when you get to court, we could put this in front of the judge. Went to that state and got the information. But while I was there in that state, I did a little bit of surveillance. Got some surveillance done, found out she was hanging out 4 o'clock in the morning But just doing all types of things. The child was being left with random people and got photographs of that. Came back to Georgia. We presented it to a judge. Judge gave me a special order. Myself and my client flew back to the state with that order, went to the sheriff department, and we went to get her grandchild, and brought it back to Georgia, and where she currently still have custody 5 years later. So that's pretty much the skip trace. Like I say, is the beginning of everything. But then the surveillance come in, the process server, and then the heart. Because I didn't have to hop on the plane.
No.
Go to another state. It was a lot to do that. I had to call the other state and let them know, hey, I'm a private investigator. I will be in your state doing an investigation. I had to do this. I had to do that. So I went far and beyond because my heart led me to it. And now when I go to my office every day, I look on my desk. There's a card on my desk. Thank you so much for getting me custody of my grandchild. We're doing great. Every year on her birthday, I get a card. So that is so rewarding to me. It's very rewarding to me. So that's just one of the cases that stands out to me. But I've done this for like 10 years now, and I will continue to do it as long as I'm able to do it. And like I said, I love helping children. I love helping fathers. I just love helping parents.
I love the fact that you even brought that back around to a grandparent, right? Because we have grandparents who call us too, and they're looking for their grandchildren, and they're trying to figure out where they are. Maybe like one case I have, the son was murdered years ago, and she's not been able to have real access with the children. And so now she doesn't need a skip trace. We figured that you actually did that skip trace. We found her through you. Yeah, I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, yeah, he did that one. So now we know where the daughter is, or the ex-girlfriend is. And so she's now moving forward with all of these things. But there's grandparents involved in these conversations too.
Yes.
Before I get off here, when you said the heart, tell us a little bit about your work with sex trafficking, because that's something you do as well. We just had this conversation on our page. I don't want you to get into details of cases, but tell us a little bit about that work, because that's different.
That's very different. It's very difficult as well. With sex trafficking in the state of Georgia, we all know, well, if we don't know, state of Georgia is the hub of sex trafficking as of 2020. And right now I'm trying to help agencies. I'm helping parents, families, trying to reunite themselves with their children. A lot of our kids are being picked up by these strangers, and they put into the sex trafficking game, and they're thrown online, and now they're doing prostitution. They're being drugged. It's crazy, and it's uncontrollable, unfortunately. So right now I'm trying to put myself in a position to where I can, help, like I said, reunite these families with their kids. Because again, our kids are being taken off the streets daily. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids, once they're gone, it's very difficult to find them again because they're being transported to other states. And I had one case where I was successful at finding a young teenage girl. She was online. The guy who took her put her online and started to make her start doing prostitution. And so one of the websites that I had became aware of, I searched through it and happened to find her with a picture I had, a photo I had from the family, and I matched it up. And I gave it to the family and the attorney, and they got law enforcement involved. So that's just one of the many cases that I've worked on, but unfortunately, I haven't been so successful. And I'm working on making my company stronger and able to be able to find more of our kids.
And that's really new, right? This is a new endeavor. You've been doing this maybe a couple of years now. And I remember having lunch with you, and I was like, Murph, okay, how are these kids getting into this? And we had a really candid conversation about it. I see people are asking, Linda's like, I believe they're like asking where you are. He's in Georgia, but he does work all over. It just depends on your particular matter and your particular situation. But skip tracing, I don't think you have to live in Georgia. He can help you with that. That's just a phone call away. We'll get into his contact information here in a second. But, that whole sex trafficking thing, I had a young lady on this past Tuesday who rescues girls out of sex trafficking. So I will definitely connect the two of you, Murph, because she's rescued over 300 girls and boys. Came here to Florida and got one 9-year-old out of it. So maybe you two collaborating together she can give you some insight and you can give her some, and y'all can take over and get some stuff done. Okay, so
definitely, yes.
she works with different agencies as well. Murph, tell people how they, because I said 30 minutes and we just at 30 minutes right now. We hit it. Tell people how they can contact you so that they can get the help that they need.
Okay, so my agency is located in Marietta, Georgia. My address is 301 Washington Avenue, Marietta, Georgia, 30060. But mainly you can call me anytime, 770-549-6641. And you can leave a voicemail. You can text me. That's a cell phone. It's my office line, but it's on a cell phone. So
one more time, Murph.
It's 770-549-6641.
Okay. And
my email. My email is Murph, MURPH, at solid, SOLID, solutions, PI.com.
Well, let me say, I am grateful for you. I'm appreciative that you said what you said to me today, because my heart was like, whoa, wasn't ready for that. I'm putting the number up here in a moment, but I need you to know that we're successful because you made a phone call one day and you said, I want to help. Because even at that moment, it was very difficult. I was still learning what to do. And people who called and said, I'll help and I'll do this, they've helped us be successful. And you're a part of that team. We would not be at 3,297 reunites if it hadn't been for you. That is
trust me. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just the absolute truth. Murph is sewing back into who we are as a country and as a nation to help children reunite with their fathers and their families. So I am honored that I can call you my PI, because that's what I call you. I'm sharing my PI with y'all.
I'm available to help. There's anybody, just reach out. I don't charge to talk to you. I talk. I mean, sometimes if I'm not able to take on your case, I will still lead you in a direction to get you the resolution of your case, because it's all about the resolution for me. Okay, so I mean, yes, I'm here as a business, but I'm also here as a friend and as a advocate for our children.
Well, I am grateful. I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful that we were able to finally have this conversation.
All right, we got to do it again.
And I see people chiming in. They're like, thank you for the information. Wow, that's awesome. Like, you're getting all of that on here. So that's what people don't know what you do, what private investigators do. So I know we impacted. I saw 20-something people. And trust me, our numbers go up throughout the week. So we're going to watch more people watch it. And I'm praying that you get more phone calls, because people now know that a private investigator can give them the advantage that they need in their case.
Definitely.
Guys, this is Help is on the Way Thursdays. We're going to try to do more of these. It's just hard sometimes to get people on here, but I'm grateful when we do. And dads, moms, grandmothers, whoever needs this information, utilize it to help you in your case, to get you reunited with your children so that you can have that time with them, so that they can be the best possible individual that they're called to be. All right, you guys have a great day. I'm Dr. Torri J, and I'll see you guys later. All right, bye-bye.